back to you with the Polity, your stewardship and appraisal, as well as accountability program, where we bring to the fore critical sectors of the social economy and political subsectors of the Nigerian polity. In doing so, we bring on helmsmen or stakeholders in these sectors live to the studios where we critically discuss vital issues. Of course, today, one other vital issue that is very important to what we're experiencing in our polity, particularly in this era, is being brought again to the fore. We'll go on this short breather, and when we come back, of course, we'll be revealing to you what our primary focus for the week on the mandate is all about. And of course, in doing so, we'll bring to the fore our critical stakeholder helmsman, or he may be a helmsman in that area, he may also be a stakeholder in that area, whichever way, but we'll be revealing him to you in a moment. Don't go away. The program is Mandate, and I'm your host, Charles Bassey. All right, glad to know you're there. Once again, welcome to the program, The Mandate. And of course, like we said earlier, it's a stewardship appraisal and an accountability program where we bring to the fore critical sectors of the socio-economy and of course the political subsectors of the Nigerian polity. One very critical area of concern in this era has to do with the democracy in Nigeria. And of course, when we're talking about democracy holistically, we're talking about it in sectors. And one very critical sector we'll be looking at today is the election process. This is what will be a recurring decimal in many current affairs fairs across the country. And of course, in Akwa Ibom State, it's not left out. We do know that politicians form a very strong block in this democratic process called election. Just like the electorate also have a very strong role to play, and so also does the electoral body. But today we're looking at the role of politicians in ensuring a seamless, fair, credible, and acceptable election. And of course, and a peaceful one as well. We've always had it very difficult at the end of every elections, always characterized by not being accepted, characterized by pockets of violence here where there's a breach of peace, and also characterized by a lack of fairness, and if you like, also characterized by a lack of credibility. And whenever there's an election, some parties will always tell you they've been shortchanged. When shall we get it right? The first elections held in Nigeria in 1922, in the pre-colonial era, or pre-independence era, and today we're still grappling with getting it right. Well, my guest today is one member of that constituency, the political class. He is he loves to be referred to all the time because he is a pastor. He is also an entrepreneur. He's an industrialist before being a politician. Last I checked, I know he's been involved in politics for quite some time, strong enough to be able to dissect these issues and trying to see how we can forge forward in making sure that we have a credible, peaceful, acceptable, and a fair electoral process. Please join me in welcoming Pastor Dave Okpon. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very
David
much.
Okpon, yes.
I'm glad
Pastor
to be
David
here.
Okpon. Yeah, I do know that you have a very tight schedule, and when we tried to get you a short notice, you told us you were somewhere in the mountain. And for those of us who are Christians and you being a pastor, we understand what that means. All the same, we thank you for making it to the program. You're very
Thank
welcome.
you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, we very quickly we'll go straight because
Okay.
it's a one-way traffic now.
Thank you.
Elections are around the corner. Nigerians are on the march again, going by that popular song that made the 1993 elections very popular. And being on the march again, one of the processes in this very, very all-important aspect of our democratic process, which is the election, we've not had it too well. We've been worried, and we keep doing the same thing over and over again, and yet we're not seeing any changes. Are you worried as a politician, or are you, comfortable as a politician with the electoral processes in Nigeria vis-a-vis all attempts to make it work. Electoral Act amendments, presently it's going back and forth. Are we also worried that in the next election we may not get it right, or perhaps we may get it right? What's your take on this?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thankfully, I'm also involved in the process, and therefore um, I like to reiterate that, of course, the nearest and the most eligible way that you can raise leaders in communities now, and of course in the world today, is the election processes. And of course, nations and in the past and in the present have tried to tweak it and to try to process it so that we can get something that is acceptable to everyone. But once in a while you have issues. Lastly, we had an American election just a few years ago, and all over the world things were being said how the election was rigged and how it was not rigged, and so on and so forth. So all over the world you have challenges in the election processes, because it's an area and in a time where people are focused, and there's so much intensity and almost so much interest on who becomes the apex person who leads the community or something like that. I want to look at a nation, Nigeria, in this perspective. I believe that Nigeria has come of age. I believe that Nigeria has come to when we can act as adults. We can act as people who have capacity, people who are knowledgeable, people who are exposed, people who are educated, and so on. Because all over the world, Nigerians are doing so well. All over the world. Right now, according to statistics in the United States, if you want to look at ethnic groups or nation, Nigerians are the most educated people in the United States, which is the largest space, one of the most developed places in the world. Nigerians, as a people, as a nation, are the most educated people. Now, I want to say, let me add to that. Now, you would have thought that would give us a kind of leverage when we get back home, having those kind of people who connect with us at home, and then also connect with the civilized world. That in Nigeria we would have done something that is exemplary, even at the level of elections, apart from every other sector. Now, the challenge that we find in election is that at the end of the day, there are all sorts of issues, all sorts of challenges, and the nation has not been able to move forward. The reason why this nation has not moved forward is that we have failed time and time again to raise the right people, to move this nation forward. It looks like a deliberate thing that we have a system that keeps throwing up the wrong people, in the places of authority. And we have not been able to move forward with all the potentials, all the capacities, all the resources that we have. It's strange. It's unbelievable that we are where we are. And that is because of the processes of election.
Now, Pastor David, let me just break you there. Hold your frame of thought. And I want to ask you this question. Do you think that Nigerians, all stakeholders in this process, do you think they haven't learned their lessons? Because from what you've narrated or what you've alluded to, it appears we have known what the challenges are and we keep repeating it each election year. Haven't we learned our lessons?
It depends on what the lesson is. Learning the lesson, you have to determine the kind of lesson you want to learn.
From the failures?
Yeah, well, of course, the failures, of course. But people are benefiting from the failures.
You understand what I'm saying? Some of those failures.
Absolutely. Now, of course, failure in governance. Governance is a major thing itself. Governance of a people is a process of bringing the good of the land in distribution to the people. As simple as that. Take the good of the land, distribute equitably to the people. Whether it's medical, whether it's education, whether it's even infrastructure. But it's to bring the good of the land and distribute to the people equitably. But we have failed woefully in that. If you look at the resources that we have had in this year from 1960 up to date, how equitably has that been? In fact, to the point that we have governmentized these resources, we have carted them away, we have dumped them in other nations. Those nations have developed their nations from the resources of this nation to the detriment of our country because of the leaders that we've had. The leaders are the ones who have access to the resources.
But aren't you worried that they are basically a tripod of stakeholders that carry out this process of democracy, talking about elections? The electorate, that is the people, the masses, if you like, then the politicians like you,
I'm coming to
and
that.
of course the electoral body.
I agree with you.
What roles do they have to play? Because I'm a bit worried when you say governance.
Let me say something. Everybody is a leader. Whoever it is, the first level of leadership is the leadership of yourself. How do you lead yourself? What is your worldview? What decisions you make depends on your worldview. And your worldview depends on your philosophy. Either the personal philosophy or communal philosophy. You have a communal philosophy, personal philosophy. Those things form culture. And those cultures will now affect human personalities and they form worldviews. The worldview, will depend. Your worldview, will determine the decisions you make. For instance, in the Nigerian culture, I think that everybody wants to corner something to himself. We've had tribal cleavages. People are working according to their tribe, which means that Nigeria is not yet a nation. Nigeria is just a country, a fragment of people who have decided to come together to call themselves a nation. Because first of all, I have lived in places where there are nations. They have evolved into a nation. Citizens think of the nation first before themselves. I've lived in those cultures. Yes, people think of the nation, as they think of themselves as nationals first before individuals. But we in Nigeria, we think ourselves as individuals, tribes or tribal people, or interest groups before we think about the nation. So until Nigerians move from the level of individuals and from the tribal cleavages to become nationalistic in our thinking, Nigeria is not going to be able to move with all the potentials. I'm saying that. I'm not saying just Nigeria alone. I'm talking about the component bodies of Nigeria. We have 36 states, the federal republic, the federal capital territory. Now you see this thing going through every state in Nigeria right now. So, and then you want to say who will bail the cat? I am thinking that Akwa Ibom State is well positioned with our antecedents as the people of culture, people of integrity. I was born when Akwa Ibom State people in this nation, of course, we were called Calabar, were the people of integrity in this nation. Akwa Ibom people were all over the world, all over this country. If you went and you wanted anybody of integrity in the days of my fathers, you were looking for people from Calabar, people from Akwa Ibom State. If you're looking for people who are excellent, you were looking for us. If you had people who had decency, like a hygiene, who were the cleanest people, you would look for us. If you had people you will leave things with them for 100 years, it will gather dust, they will never take a pin of it. You will find it here. We have lost excellence, we have lost integrity, but we can recover that. It depends on also the leadership. What is the worldview of the leader that is coming? What does he think? How does he think? You understand what I'm saying? The leader will depend, the polity, the behavior and the achievement of the polity will depend on the leader and what the leader sees. Even in the Bible, Jeremiah chapter 1, before God would work with anybody, he would test what you see. God asked Jeremiah, he said, what do you see? And he said, I see an almond tree. God said, you see well, then I can walk with you. Down the line, he asked him a second time. He said, Jeremiah, what do you see? What do you see? He now said, I see this and this and that. And God said, wait, God, every time God walks with a man, he will ask you, what do you see? Look, in the book of Ezekiel, the Bible says that God also asked Ezekiel, what do you see? Ezekiel had to tell God what it is, because before God will now decide to walk with him. Now, in Isaiah chapter 6 says, in the day Uzziah died, my eyes opened, and I was able to see the Lord. I saw him highly exalted and all that. Then God now called him. He said, now, can you now go for us? That is, until you see, God cannot use you. So, who is the next leader in Nigeria? What does he see? How does he see Nigeria? Does he see Nigeria from the eyes of God? Or does he see Nigeria from his own personal eye? Or does he see it from his tribal cleavage? Or does he see Nigeria from his interest group? You have interest groups, you have tribal cleavages, you have personal agendas. So what is your worldview as a Nigerian? That's how it impacts on the polity. Number one. Two, the people who are the electorate, what do they see as a culture of a people? What do they see? In recent times, we have forgotten where we have come from. We are not a privileged people. 25 years ago, in this town of Uyo, we used to know who owned what. We knew who owned the car or not in this town. I am from Uyo. My village is Ipa Road. where the town campus is. I'm from Uyo, Ikoropa and Uyo. I lived here. I went to primary school, Ikon Twenuku, where there used to be a Fiaito. I'm a regular grassroots boy. You know, so now I'm telling you, we used to know who owned what. Volvos, we knew all the houses that had cars. Now we have big wagons, we're driving all over the place, and we are pretending as though we had always been, opulent. We have lived in affluence all our lives. We have forgotten where we came from. We have forgotten that there are people whom we are leading. We have forgotten that this is a common patrimony, and we are squandering it. I am telling you, this is something that we could call ourselves together and recover who we used to be, and then say, look, in this nation, Nigeria, a people must arise and set the standard. Akwa Ibom is in that place. Akwa Ibom has all the capacity. Akwa Ibom has the opportunity. Akwa Ibom can call the shots in this nation. Now, let me tell you one thing that you do not know. I'm an intercessor of 26 years. I've worked with Dr. Odofia, they have prayed for this nation for past 46 years. And the reason I want to tell you why this is, I'm going to tell you that. Now, we have prayed over Akwa Ibom State. I, personally, between 10 to 15 to 20 times, I have gone to every local government in Akwa Ibom State since 1996. I have prayed in all these places. Now, if you are coming out to govern a people like Akwa Ibom State, you must know who they are. Every people group in the world today, as God created people, God has given every set of people what they call a redemptional gift. And Akwa Ibom State is not left out. God has given Akwa Ibom State a redemptional gift. We are not church people in vain. God has a prophetic election over us as a people to lead Nigeria, in to fulfill her destiny. The way Nigeria is going in spiral like this, Nigeria is waiting for Akwa Ibom State. Akwa Ibom State is the firstborn in Nigeria. Akwa Ibom State is the firstborn. Let me say it again. Akwa Ibom State is the firstborn in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and therefore carries the priesthood for this nation, Nigeria.
Quite interesting.
Now,
just hold your frame of thought.
Okay.
Quite interesting. We've gone very spiritual here.
Now,
as
yes,
exciting as that may be, I read an article purportedly written by you, and that article actually stated that anyone who wants to be the governor of Akwa Ibom State or seek any political office for that matter must hear from God. Going by what you've just said, how do you tie this? And because you've made mention, you've tried to buttress why governance is really one great factor militating against a credible arranging of credible elections. What did you mean by that?
Let me clear that point. I think I want to bring everybody to understand that whether in this nation, Nigeria, you are either on God's side or you're not. There is no middle point. Everybody, whether you're in business, you are a parent, a teacher, a doctor, anything, it's either you're on the Lord's side or you're not. I'm telling you the way it is. And there is a destiny that Akwa Ibom State must fulfill. Right? There is a destiny. And that destiny is to lead this nation and to model things. Model character, model education, model businesses, and model livelihood, general livelihood, model righteousness in every sector. That is the call of God upon us. In the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there are no people who pray and move under the power of God and call upon the name of the Lord like the people of Akwa Ibom State. Other people in the nation Nigeria will always tell you that Akwa Ibom State spiritually is a pace setter. The PFN have said that. Other sections of the church have said that. The Akwa Ibom State is a pace setter. Anything that God wants to do, He comes to start in Akwa Ibom State. If I want to reiterate, I can give you the list of many things that started in Akwa Ibom State. The first this, first that, and even the amalgamation of the northern and the southern protectorate was signed in Ikorabasi in Akwa Ibom State. Now, the person who signed it did not live in Akwa Ibom State. He lived somewhere else. I'm sure you know he lived in Lokoja.
Yeah, Lokoja.
How come he came to Akwa Ibom State to sign it? Right? He did that. Now, those are semblances to show you that Akwa Ibom State has the lead role in this nation. Why am I saying so? Akwa Ibom State has to rise up and set standards. And one of the places is in leadership. Leadership is the beginning and the end of everything. Even in your home. Even in your family. The leader in the house determines whether that family succeeds or not, whether the children become anything or not. Leadership in the schools makes the difference. Leadership in the church makes the difference. Leadership in the community makes the difference. Leadership in the state makes the difference. Leadership in the nation makes the. And as I said to you, it starts from personal leadership, self-leadership.
Right. So that we don't lose sight, we're
Okay.
talking about elections.
Yes.
And, are you worried because you've narrated the ugly side of what we have faced? And if I may quote you, you made mention in summary that until we get it right in these areas where we are not getting it right, we may not have that.
Okay,
Are you
so-
worried? Last I checked, you were a deputy governorship candidate in the last election for Labour Party.
Yes.
There was a democratic process that took place then. And I'm also aware that you're also a hopeful into the governorship seat of Akwa Ibom State. Are you worried with all these challenges in our electioneering process that even from the primaries down, if you eventually become a candidate, to the wider elections, are you worried that you could get good results when you don't seem to have so much confidence in what you have narrated about the systems?
I have passed through it again. You know, I'm part of the G22. 22 of us were in Abuja for 40 days and 40 nights. And out of that, actually, that is where we fell out. We came out with the distinguished Senator Helen Eswene, who was my principal at that time.
Of the Labour Party.
Yes, of the Labour Party. G22 actually elected that we. In fact, we decided that we should at least step out and do something. We didn't want to come out by our own accord. We were sent out by G22. I had to, deputize her because I am from Uyo. At that time, it was AKETS 10. We have gone through this. We've seen the impunity. We see the processes for which our current government emerged, and that is the reason why I'm thinking that in the exit of this current government, there shouldn't be any such thing that brought it in. I think that is fair enough that we don't do that. But concerning the polity, the people, I want to address the people now, the people in Akwa Ibom State. I know that I'd like to tell them that the people in Akwa Ibom State must understand that they have a responsibility to who is their leader. One, who is the next leader in Akwa Ibom State must, if we have missed it another time, must be somebody who has links with heaven and knows the destiny of the people through the mind of God and is able to articulate it. I'm not just saying you come and say, well, I know that I'm this and that, I heard this and that. Articulate it. Let us hear what you know about this state and what God is saying. Number two, now it's your responsibility if you receive little packages in your hands that will not take you up to a day, and then you sell your birthright for the rest of the time. Now, the people whom you are going to put in office are responsible for your lives. They are responsible for your lives. And because they are responsible for your lives, when you elect them into office, you have put your life and your livelihood and your future into their hands. So whatever you have gained at the beginning, and you've put your entire future and those of your children into the hand of a person for which you do not have any kind of assurance that is going to lead to what you see about your children, then you have actually failed yourself and failed your posterity. Now, one of the things I would want to say, this election we must all become posterity conscious. We have had our fights in the past. And I know the fight is there are people who have set up a massive war chest for another fight. But I think that a lot of people are going to be disappointed in this time around. People are going to be disappointed. There is something that I perceived in the realm of the spirit that is going to happen. Please forgive me. I operate in that particular realm. So there is something that is going to happen. We have had it very bad in Akwa Ibom State. We've had where people have killed, had all kinds of people are dismembered, people have been wounded, all kinds of things. People have lost their loved ones. Women have become widows, children have become fatherless, and so on and so forth in Akwa Ibom State. During elections. So I want to give a call to the people of Akwa Ibom State that this should not be the case this time around. Why I'm saying so is because we have something that most other people do not have. In Akwa Ibom State, we have something that most people do not have. We are a praying people. We are a church people. Therefore, we must be a peaceful people. And therefore, I am, with this particular word that I'm saying, calling the whole of Akwa Ibom State to a prayer. Calling the Akwa Ibom State to pray. All of families, pray for your future, pray for your children. in the thing that has happened globally today, if you have read globally, you would know that the world is coming to an end. Everybody, forgive me, I'm not trying to be religious here. I'm trying to be spiritual. There is a difference. I'm not being religious, I'm being spiritual. Now, in this time in which we live, things have changed in the realm of the spirit. Things are no longer what they used to be. Where a dispensation is upon us to fulfill the purpose of God that He elected us as a people. That election, if there were to be a choice, or if there were to be elections, naturally, people like us in Akwa Ibom State would not have been, selected. You can see the issue of money. Now Akwa Ibom State has money. When we didn't have a dime, you know how we were talked down everywhere we went. People talked down on us, looked down on us. All kinds of things happened to us. But now that God has lifted us up, those things have vanished. Also, there is something else we must do, to come into the fullness of the purpose of God. Election this year, this time around, we will determine what happens there. If we want to all die, it's going to happen. If we want to kill ourselves, it's going to happen. But if we want to embrace God and embrace peace, peace will be the solution. But I tell you, no matter what happens, God's purpose will emerge, not man's purpose. The Bible speaks about that in the book of Lamentation. He said, who says the things and it comes to pass if the Lord does not say it?
Well, I'm glad to know that God's purpose will stand. And I know that the Holy Books tell us that God thinks very well of us. Well, we're talking about making, or rather ensuring a very peaceful, credible, and acceptable, seamless electoral process as we inch closer to the 2023 general elections. With me in the studio live on Monday this afternoon is Mr. David Okpon, a politician, an industrialist, and a pastor. Of course, he's also a governorship hopeful. We do hope that he's been doing justice to this in the last 27 minutes. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll leave the microphones for you listening to add value to this discussion. It's an all-important discussion that everyone, every Nigerian, man, woman, of course, particularly those 18 and above, will be participating in this very electoral process, a strong component in the democratic setting. The lines that you will be calling are 0703 785 0561. That is 0703 785 0561. You'd like to add value, you'd like to ask questions or make contributions. We know that this electoral process is a very important process in any democracy. When you get it right, definitely be sure that the democracy that we enjoy will definitely become stronger and deeper. All right, we have our first caller. Let's see. Oh dear. Keep your calls coming, and when they come, of course, we'll ensure we try and take your calls. All right, let's see and hope that this goes on. Hello. A very good afternoon to you.
Hello,
Good afternoon, you're on to Mandate. Your name and where you're calling from. But first of all, do us a favor. Can you come down? Can you come down on the volume of your radio set, please? Or move away from your radio listening device.
Yes.
All right.
Let me do that.
All right. Do that right
Is it clear
away.
now?
Thank you so very much. I think we can now make this conversation go ahead. All right.
Okay, this is Joe from Ibiano.
David from Ibiano.
Joseph from
Okay,
Ibiano.
Joseph from Ibiano. All right, go ahead.
Yes, I have to do this. And I want to thank the governorship office. And the David Lynch will be the governor of Ohio State. That is in this first Israel I had a lot of rot. And because of they're having a difficult year with the governorship also. What will he do differently? If it proves, well, say, sometimes somebody will not be waiting for 5-6 days, and if that provision is done, you see the reaction is not there. And so many things happen in the civil service. I want to find out from the governorship person, what will be, what is his opinion, or what will he do differently if he comes to be the governor of Ohio State? Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Joseph. I think I got that last part very well, but the other parts were not very clear. What would you do differently? And we're talking about the electoral process. I did remember that President Yar'Adua also faulted the very electoral process that brought him in, and he promised to do something. Some of those promises have manifested in some of the reforms we've seen coming up today. All right, what would you do differently, he says?
All right, thank you very much. I think his name is Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph.
Thank you,
Just
Joseph,
before
for
we
that.
take that, let's see if we can just squeeze this together.
All right.
And you probably will take them at the same time. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, please, my name is Israel. I'm calling from Oyo.
All right, Israel, go ahead.
Yes, please, I have a question to ask. We have noticed that what drives insecurity most in this country is unemployment and by extension poverty. What is the role of government in this, especially as we approach the 2023 general election?
All right, the role of government.
Yes,
Poverty being
yes,
what?
yes, yes. That's
Poverty
what I'm
begets violence.
coming to
Poverty
the
also
question.
begets
What they will do
susceptibility to
in
vote buying and all of that.
Yes.
All right, thank you
So,
very much.
any-
Yeah, we've got your frame of thought. All right,
Yeah,
go ahead.
thank you very much. What to do differently? Number one, set a new pattern for governance completely, where righteousness rules. Bible says that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to the people, and that is the truth. Everywhere we go,
Absolutely.
compromise.
I'm just wondering if we could take all the calls in one breath and then we just move on to the questions. All right, let's take this. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, a very good afternoon to you. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon. I'm calling from Rwanda.
I didn't get the name again, and that's the first lady on the program.
Archibald.
Okay, it's a male, Archibong. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Now, as I said all that the good man said, now, to have all that, he said, unless we have peaceful elections, it cannot happen. And how do we have the peaceful elections? Let Godfathers step out from the field of elections. Then we can have peaceful elections. Like when they step down, we will have an open ballot election, and then we can make a peaceful election. Thank you.
All right, Archibong. Archibong was also a bit worried about the pattern of elections, and I did know also that we're worried about whether direct or indirect or option A4 and all of that. These are also some of the things that would also determine how peaceful or how credible an election is. All right, let's take this one as well. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah, your name and where you're calling from. You're on to mandate.
this is Dr. Jeffrey calling from Petina.
Dr. Jeffrey. All right, go ahead,
I want
doctor.
to thank His Excellency. I know he's a good man, and I know that he's a man that God has given the revelation about Akwa Ibom State, and he's the only person that will deliver and save this state. So I have been part of a blessing that God has used him to bless us. His Excellency, God bless you. I want to
God bless
appeal
you too.
to the state governor, our Excellency, Mr. Udom Emmanuel, to invite David and hear him out and listen to him, because he's the one that God has given the revelation, so that he will be a blessing to him. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Jeffrey. Thanks for your frame of thought.
Yeah,
That's
not a
interesting.
question. That's not a question.
He
Thank
didn't have
you
a
very
question
much.
there. It was just
Thank
all right. I think we can take the okay, we still have one. Let's give the microphone to them because there's time. Hello, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Charles. Can we know yours?
You are saying with Johnson.
All right, Johnson Ibesikbo. Okay.
Sure. Yes, I want to ask the guests in the house there, what would be if policy trust in terms of transforming Akwa Ibom State? That's what would be its cardinal achievement, those signature, this and that, anytime it comes to my name, everybody will be looking for it.
All right, Johnson. All right, Johnson. We're talking about elections, and I hope. Go ahead.
If you want to, please, I want to say that the issue of election, rather than unite us, as seem to divide us, all the enemy group in the state. How are you going to unite and fight on state back again in the realms, in the era of Obaman Banfirme?
All
Thank
right.
you, Milan.
Thank you very much. I think I will take a pause there, and then we take them in one breath. You got that question well?
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
so.
Elections have more.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think that these are very good and great questions. Number one, let me start with Johnson here at the last. He says, what is your policy trust? You know, I think that if I want to say one thing, just one thing, I want to begin with that, is education. One of the things that we should realize in Nigeria is that the quality of education in Nigeria, although we go outside in the country of this nation Nigeria and to excel incredibly in areas of education, is that the education back home is absolutely uh, uh, inadequate, because our education in the country is built around the colonial curriculum that we received several decades ago, and they were instructional education. They were instructional. We need developmental education. So what we will do, irrespective of the common curriculum, that may be general for all the schools in all the three tiers of education, that is primary, secondary, and the tertiary institutions, we will try to formulate special, structure of education for Akwa Ibom State that is developmental. Now, when you have developmental education everywhere in the world where you go to, you will see that excellence thrives. Now, the more any community is educated, the easier they are to lead. Let me say that again. The more a community or a people...
So we have this
Yes.
call here, and I think we're streaming. It seems to be a foreign call.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, where is that from?
Yes, you're on to Mandate. May we meet you? You're on to Mandate Live on Radio Nigeria Atlantic FM. Will you?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead with your question or comments. Your name.
Yes, my name is Edward, and I'm calling from the United States of America. And
United States.
I have a couple of questions for...
All right, David, you're calling from the United States of America. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. I'm going to ask him, I know he's going for governor of Akwa Ibom State. I just want to know what really inspired him thinking that he was a contender as governor of Akwa Ibom State.
Yeah, he wants to know
Okay.
what inspires you.
Inspires me, yes. Okay.
All right. I'm sure that's all, Dave. Oh, that's quite a long call from the United States of America. Okay,
Well,
those of us
that's-
are watching us from our streaming live. All right, yes, he wants to know what inspired you. We're talking about electoral processes here, and
Okay.
we want to know exactly how the processes can be made right, and one
Well-
is still being inspired to come into this system when we're struggling to get it right.
My inspiration, my major cardinal inspiration, is to bring Akwa Ibom State to fulfill her destiny. Like I said from the beginning, I said that every people group, including Akwa Ibom State, have what is called a redemptional gift. And there is no government in Akwa Ibom State that has addressed that. No government has even identified who we are. And I believe that before you are a good leader of a people, you must know who they are. And you must know what they can do, what they are best for. Because let me tell you something, you cannot judge a fish out of water and a cat that climbs a tree, and you judge a fish because a fish could not climb a tree. You understand that? And that is what we do in Nigeria. You take the people out of the areas of our best abilities, and you judge them for not performing well. And that is the problem that we have. We as a people, we have a gifting, and we need to look at that gifting. Let me tell you how near we came to that. We came close to that in the time of Dr. Clement Isong. Dr. Clement Isong knew that the people of the mainland were working people, people who liked to work with their hands. They were creative. They were creators of things, and he brought all the industries onto the mainland. And of course, he decided that there should be tourism in the area of Cross River State, because the people are laid back, and they were good for things like that. And you could see that tourism, even till today, you could see that man was very visionary. And even till today, you could see that if you want to talk about tourism, and by the way, we can talk about tourism in Akwa Ibom State because we have a lot of package for that, you can see that naturally it falls there in Cross River State. But we can activate it here. You understand? So you need to know who the people are. I'm just talking about physically now. Now, my major inspiration is because I have worked with God to know who the people of Akwa Ibom State are, and that there is a specific destiny that God has kept for us. we cannot be led by people who are blind to that fact. It would not be, it will not augur well for the people of Akwa Ibom State. And that's why you have challenges everywhere. Secondly, I want to go to speak with, we talk about what Johnson said. Policy trust. I was talking about education. Education is everything.
Very vital, because I'm
Yes.
going to ask you what role education will play in helping the populace to play their roles in an electoral process.
That is what I'm trying to say. Now, another thing, the nearest thing we can do, because now you cannot put everybody in a 5-year classroom and bring them out for election. No, there are electoral processes. And right now we had some decisions that were made, by the Apex House, concerning, what type of structure we are going to have in our electoral processes. At the first time, we thought that it's going to be an open ballot system, which is option A4. We bantered around that for a long time, and then they will now reverted to, the delegates, process. At the end of the day, what was decided was that the party has the right to adopt whichever they want to use. They can say we want to do open ballot. Well, that is for the party. They will say they want to use a delegate. It's open to the party. And that is what is there. Then consensus, they said, well, consensus was an area that was a bit shady and all of that. Of course, they can get into consensus, but then all the aspirants must come to sign off on one aspirant if you want to have a consensus. And that's how it should be. You cannot call a bunch of people who are not even aspiring to come and, create a consensus. Why would that be? So that is clear.
But
now,
if I may pin you, what do you think would be the best bet for a nation like Nigeria? Because you made mention of something, understanding the people. Laws are for the people, not to be
yes,
people at all.
absolutely. I believe that the best thing right now, would be an open ballot system. Let me tell you why.
But why do you think the
Let me
politicians
tell
are
you why.
against
No,
it?
let me tell you why. You see, the reason why we have violence is that people are disenfranchised. If you feel disenfranchised, there are some people that can absorb it. There are some people that cannot just absorb it, depending on their worldview. We're going back to worldview now. Depending on what they have passed through, depending on what they think and what they expect, depending on their vision. Some people cannot just take it, and they will just, either explode one way or the other, and the consequences is what we normally see. Now, if you have electoral processes that equitable, people are not bound to be violent. I mean, it's just like a football game. You see, thousands of people are in the stadium. When the people in that stadium know that their team did not do well, they peaceably leave home. They just go home peaceably. It's the same thing with election. In fact, the football game is the election.
But does that really happen here?
No,
Because
that's what
we
I'm
have
trying to say.
instances where the politician, when he loses, he says it's a rep on democracy.
No,
I
yeah,
don't believe in the system.
yeah.
But when he wins, this is the best thing to have happened to Nigeria. So
but,
why are we not having
no,
acceptable
what
elections?
we need to do, you see, what we don't do in this country is what they call post-mortem. We don't do that. I mean, the best we do are pages of newspaper by only journalists. They are the only one who are concerned. The journalists are the only people who are really, I could say, are concerned, during this election and all of that. Why do I say so? They are the ones who even make, who even attempt, to capture these sequences. Politicians don't sit back and say, okay, wait a minute, what we just came through, can we deal with it? Can we look at it? Can we assuage? Can we do anything? The politicians must go back and do post-mortem in the process that even brought them and take they take clean actions that will make sure that those things didn't happen again. But they don't do that. Why? Because they know as long as those processes are there, the loopholes are there, people are going to be beneficiaries. And the people who are beneficiaries are not most and generally not the people who have the best interest of the populace at heart. This is the problem.
How can we get out of the woods?
No, to tell you the truth, it's to educate even the politicians. They need some education. We cannot take it for granted that you have to go and every time you go and educate the electorate and leave the politicians. What education do politicians have before they come to run for office? I'm not talking about academic qualification. There is what is called emotional intelligence. Leadership. There are lots of things you could do in leadership. Developmental leadership, emotional intelligence, all of those things. What is the politician bringing? What does he know? How does he feel? What is his worldview? You see, there are some politicians who are coming and it's a do or die affair. There are some politicians who come and say, well, if we win, that's fine. If we do not win, we can go home. There are some like that. So politicians must be educated. That's number one. and we must try and find out what is in their minds. Okay.
All right,
Secondly,
let's quickly just accommodate one or two more calls.
Okay,
because,
fine, thank
I've
you.
been
Go
really
ahead.
on the line hanging. Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon. You want to mandate?
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Daniel.
Daniel is calling from.
I'm calling from Uyo.
All right, Daniel, go ahead. My guest is in the studio. We're looking at credible, acceptable, peaceful, and fair elections.
Thank you. I really appreciate the guest that is talking about the political situation in Akwa Ibom State and in Nigeria at large. I also want to comment his intelligence, his content, and every other thing. And I believe that
Thank
he's
you.
one of the candidates we are looking for to come up to contest this election. And
Thank
I
you.
have a question
Go
to
ahead.
our guest, Mr. David Opon. My question is, should you become the governor of Akwa Ibom State come 2023, how would you bring to bear to reality the dream of Ibom deep sea port, owing to its economic importance
Well,
to Akwa Ibom State
hello.
and in Nigeria at large?
Hello,
Well,
this actually isn't a period of campaign. We're looking at the elections. Let's go over the elections first before we talk about it. I think we're
Well,
putting
well
the
let me
cart
just
before the
quickly
horse.
say,
Yeah.
I was part of the vision of Ibom Deep Sea Port. So that should tell you that I will do something about it. I was part of the vision from scratch.
Okay, I'm sure that answers his question. We're looking basically at the electoral process. Our callers should actually not derail us. We're actually looking at the electoral process. How best can we make it? Because there's been this argument from 1922 till the year 2022. There's still tension and apprehension whether we will get it right or not. And then I will just ask you the last two questions before we go straight to the apathy of the people. The next question I'll ask you basically here, are you worried that as a politician, there isn't anything happening? We seem to have been doing the same thing the same way over the years. I asked that question before. What difference do you see ahead of 2023 that gives politicians the confidence and even the electorate to go out? Because there's always an apathy as a result of electoral processes not really being put out properly.
Well, let me ask you a question, from my heart. Naturally, I don't see any difference. I believe that it's going to be business as usual because all the people, like I said, people have developed their war chests, people have armed themselves with whatever they know and whatever works for them. This is like a Machiavellian system. The end justifies the means. And this is terrible for people like us. If you look at the continent of Africa, look at China. China in my lifetime, I'm afraid to say, China in my lifetime was nowhere. Within my own lifetime. Nobody gave China nobody gave China the time of day. Nobody in my lifetime. Over a few decades, China has come to grow up to the point that they can poke Americans in the face. Now, these are people who want to develop, and of course, you see, leadership is very important before you can emerge. We are not always going to be depending on everyone. Right now, before we grade our roads, it's only recently that we have to use local content. Every time we have to go and bring, expatriates to do everything for us. Expatriates to run our economy, expatriates to build our roads. We have imported everything from everywhere. Right now, there is something that is coming. The African Continental Free Trade Zone. That African Continental Free Trade Agreement, Nigeria and South Africa are the last countries to sign, and they signed it 2 years ago. In the next 5 years, that region will be up and running. How are we prepared? Now, the politicians must show us how we are going to play in that. Akwa Ibom State people, we have not really been players at the national economy. How many people do you have that are from Akwa Ibom State that can, you can say that they are economists, they are big businessmen in the nation Nigeria, and they have cornered the sector. Even in the oil and gas, we are one of the highest producing, areas in oil and gas. Who are our business people? Who are the oil magnates from Akwa Ibom State? Who are the people who own oil wells in Akwa Ibom State? Who are the people? We don't have them. But I'm telling you that we have another opportunity to be players at the continental level. That is where I'm taking everybody from Akwa Ibom State too. Why? Because we are going to be I'm not talking about industrialization. I'm talking about manufacturing. Let's go down to brass tacks. Akwa Ibom State, Africa, we need to manufacture. Now, one of the things that I also want to tell you, Africa is in the third developmental decade, IDD3. Most people do not know that. According to United Nations, Africa, right now we are in the third, developmental decade. The first two had failed but for this third one, which ends in 2026, for it to succeed, Africa must industrialize. And you see, why am I talking Africa when I'm talking Akwa Ibom State? You see, before you know where you're going and how you are going to progress and become anything in this world and take your people to anywhere, you must see the big picture. For us, the big picture is to transform Africa.
Saying the
like
big
China.
picture.
You must
Now-
see the big picture. I'm saying, hold on.
Do they-
The medium picture is Nigeria, and the small picture is Akwa Ibom State. What I see is to move us as manufacturers in Akwa Ibom State to play in that platform of the EPZ zone. That is the African Continental Free Trade Zone. Now, the calculation is that there will be annual transactions of 3.5 trillion US dollars, and that can bring a lot of things and can take all our people who are looking for employment to go and work there. When we were doing Ibaka Deep Seaport, the Ibaka Deep Seaport at that time alone, 2004 to 2007, in our calculation, would have taken 490,000 people out of the labor market.
Yeah,
Why?
that brings to bear the issue of leadership.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to say, and what you see.
But let me
Leadership
also
is
ask
what
you
you
this
see,
question,
yes.
because it's also very important.
Go ahead.
We don't really get out of track.
Okay.
There was this story in the Bible where, Barnabas was brought out and then Jesus Christ was brought out, all in a desperate bid to see if they could free Jesus Christ. And then the people were asked, "Whom do you want?"
Yes.
And everybody knew Jesus was innocent, but they knew that Barnabas
That
was
is
a very
what I'm
serious.
trying to
but
say
they
to
still
you.
gave Barnabas the chance to go. Now let's look at the Nigerian setting, even in our own families, even in our villages, even in our
Okay.
communities,
Okay.
in our state and in our country.
Okay.
Do the people really have the ability to know the right way to go in terms of leadership? Because this also has a role to play in making an election, acceptable. Some people feel the best candidate don't normally finds the end of the tunnel, or light at the tunnel.
Like I told you,
The
from
best candidates don't really win
Yeah,
elections.
like I told you from the beginning, we are not yet nationalistic in our worldview.
Yeah, but it's
I'm coming.
Doesn't it amount to shooting yourself on the
No,
foot?
that's what I'm trying to say. We are not nationalistic. Every man, most and generally, as we go to election, people go to election for their interest group, the small cluster that it comes from, and those are people who gather, and that's why the rest of the people fight and agitate, and some people lose their lives in the process. There are people who have vital things that they share in that society, and the rest of the populace know that if this man gets into office, my children, if not me, my children will be delivered. They have a future tomorrow. At the end of the day, somebody else who has nothing to offer is forced upon the people. You see, people will want to kill themselves. They will go to any extent. Secondly, also, there are also interest groups. Yeah, I'm telling you the truth. There are also interest groups who have interest. At the end of the day, it's not their group that pulls out the next person, and they want to also harm the other group that pulls the person. This is the thing. But if you have the common denominator, which is education, quality education. You see, we have education. We have education, and we have education. I am telling you, Nigerians, we qualify for the best, particularly in Akwa Ibom State. We have always been the best. Check your records. Look, it came to a point that our fathers in 1933 were the first people with communal effort to put money together to send our children abroad. The first in the geographical, a place called Nigeria. The first people to think of it.
But we have more graduates churned out now than we
Well,
had in the
no.
past.
The
So what's
quality
wrong?
of the graduate, the quality is the issue, and that is what I'm talking about. The quality, because you see, we have come to the place of compromise. We have compromised everywhere because it starts from the leadership. The leadership in the nation, the communities have been compromised to the extent that even medically, you have a lot of compromise. My friend died a few days ago. A few months ago in one of the Akwa Ibom hospitals, a general hospital. Why? Because they kept him outside for over 4 hours. 4 hours. Somebody who was in emergency, he was kept under duress. He had no attention for 4 hours until he died. Where does it happen? Where does that happen? Life is cheap only in Africa. Now, when we have the value, another thing is that life is cheap. We do not have the value, even the value of our children. A lot of people sit in office, they do not have the value for posterity.
Now, who is
You
at
see, these are the
who's
things
at
that
the
we're talking
receiving
about.
end? It is the citizens.
It is a citizen.
Now, what would you make of the word apathy when it comes to elections? These same people that are at the receiving end. On election day, they're playing football on the streets.
Yeah, because you see, you come to a place where because you see, when you, it's psychological, my brother. It's psychological. Now you have tried, you give your all. At the end of the day, you still, you come to zero. Every time you give your, and then you have watched people dying in the process. My brother, next time you go play football instead of dying in the process, that's what you see. That is true. Yeah, because people died and nothing changed. They gave their lives. Their wives are now widows. Their sons are now, fatherless. And those, you are alive to see what happened to them. So today, this time around, you play football and you don't blame them. Until there is a revolution. We need a revolution. And when I mean a revolution, it must not be violence. There are revolutions in communities. I can tell you, if we had time, where you had revolution like that of Indira Gandhi. You have revolutions in other places where you didn't have.
We don't have time. Could you just do us in one breath?
Yeah.
Give us your advocacy in summary in about 2 minutes. Where we are now and where we hope to go if we do certain things right. Give us advocacies of those things we can do in just one breath in about 60 seconds.
I think that there should be no imposition in politics. Imposition is one of the things that creates violence, because if you allow a level playing field and there is no aspirant that becomes a favorite amongst aspirants, you will see that the polity will become, there's most likely not to be violence. But if an aspirant comes up already, is thrown up already as one that is most preferred, of course you are going to have a lopsided election and people are going to be very angry about it. Let the people go there. Absolutely pull your hand, out of it. I mean, I know, for instance, a sitting governor is a citizen, if, for instance, for Akwa Ibom State, and you have a right to say, who this is the person I like.
But don't forget, he has only one vote.
Yeah, all I'm trying to say is that, the impact and effect of your personal. The Bible says, do not allow your liberty, to cause a stumbling block to another person. That's what the Bible says. Your liberty, do not allow it, to become a stumbling block. Now, we do that. But what I'm trying to, finally, I would like to say that let there be a level playing ground. People will go out and win election and everybody will see that they had tried their best, but they lost. There are people who will go and win, they know that they also tried, and the people accepted him. When in Nigeria are we going to have people who are truly elected by the people, polity, by the people? When is that going to ever happen?
All right, that's a good way to wrap it up. When, and that answer is waiting. And we do hope we get that answer in no distant time. 2023 is just around the corner. Thank you so very much, Pastor Dave Okun, politician, industrialist, pastor, and also hoping to eye the #1 seat. All right, thank you so very much, and I do hope that you will join us whenever we need you sometime in future, when we'll be dissecting this issue with a group of other stakeholders in the electoral process.
Thank you. I'm always around. Thank you very much for having me. I'm just a phone call away.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, the listener, who has actually been the main hero in this. Thank you so much for being there with us. On behalf of